takes raw courage and a little bit of madness to be towed at speeds of up to 160 kilometres an hour, knowing if you fall off, you're history. But those who do it say the exhilaration makes you forget the danger. All they think about is ways to go even faster. They've chosen the industrial city of Gladstone for their annual shootout, the first time the titles have gone to central Queensland. First stop is the Caltex service station on Hanson Road, where the boats will undergo a rigorous examination by competition officials.
Well, we still haven't got enough room for three numbers. So by the time you take the size of it and put 50 in between them, number of balls going to be a bit better.
And there's good reasons for the scrutineers not to show lenience to anyone.
I feel the safety of the competitors, not only the boat owner, but the safety for the competitors of the other boats who they're racing with, because they're doing some fast speeds, and especially if a cable breaks, it's very dangerous for everybody on course. Steering is one of the main things. They've got to have cutout switches also. If the boat driver leaves the boat motor must stop. Safety flags, if they have a fallen skier, the flag has to be flown. And they also have some safety flares.
While many competitors are taking advantage of their first chance to check out the competition, others have more important things on their mind. And this crew is hoping their boat is a little bit more reliable than the vehicle that tows it. After 6 hours of scrutineering, it's time for the focus to turn to the competition venue for the first time. Officially opened in 1985, the Woonga Dam provides Gladstone's industrial plants with a steady supply of fresh water. It's also where the town's drinking water comes from. Although water skiing is not normally allowed on the dam, the Water Authority made an exception so the club could hold these championships. But there are special conditions. At the official briefing, competitors are told they won't be allowed on the water unless their boats are spotless. Also on the agenda is safety.
If you see a crash boat or an incident on the water, don't drive beside it and have a bit of a look on the way past. Keep well clear. It's very difficult to pick a skier out of the water when there's boat washers shaking you around.
At this stage, the happiest person at a Woonga Dam is organiser Snowy Ross, who can't wait for the event to begin.
There's plenty of action here, I can tell you. Yeah, through the men race and the class races, and there's hopefully 90 boats coming, 270 competitors, so there'll be some fast action, I can tell you.
This year's Nationals take on special significance, with competitors vying for selection in the team to contest the world titles in Darwin later this year. International Water Skiing Federation President Glenn Coles says it's highly probable that whoever wins here this week will also triumph in Darwin.
It's very high standard. It's up to anything in the world.
The current world champion Ian Dipple, former champion Mark Pickering and world number 2 woman Leanne Hickey will all be in action over the next week, skiing at speeds of up to 160 kilometres per hour. What happens when you fall off at those speeds? We'll show you after the break. At 6 o'clock on the first morning of competition, a Woonga Dam is calm and peaceful, but in a little over 2 hours' time it'll lose its serenity, transformed into a hive of colour, activity and noise. First on the program is the under-10s, maybe not the fastest race, but certainly one of the most entertaining. As race time approaches, it's hard to tell who's more nervous, the kids or the parents. Like any race, there are the show ponies and those who are quietly confident.
You can't touch this. You can't touch this. You can't touch this. My music so hard.
Finally, victory for Luke Wakeham of Townsville. Commiserations to the skier behind Dart, who goes for a swim only metres from the line. Next race is the under-16 boys, featuring the up-and-comers of Australian skiing. As you can see, the idea is to get off to a good start. Those who don't have to fight hard to avoid falling in the rough water. With the race off to an even start, supporters on the shore look set for a skiing spectacular, but a couple of boats gradually manage to get clear of the bunch.
Raj is our leading boat at the moment.
Out on the course, you can appreciate the extreme power of these boats. Any error by driver or skier can result in the loss of a race and serious injury. But rather than being scared by the possibility of injury, veteran driver Norm Griffin says competitors find the danger exhilarating.
It's a high-risk sport, I'll say that. I've had some bad accidents in boats, disintegrating under the high 100 mile an hour, but skiers too, they can fall at high speeds on smooth water, 100 mile an hour, 90 to 100, and they can pull a nerve in their back, and you'll see them one arm not much good. And we have two skiers in New South Wales in wheelchairs. We'll never be out of wheelchairs, but they say, well, you can do that with football, you can do it walking down the street doing a car accident. So it is a high-risk sport, though, and I think they get a big kick out of it, and you can't do away with those risks, though.
People like speed. We don't like to see spills, but you do see some specky spills now and again, and I think fast boats and fast skiers, that's what attracts the people.
And fastest of them all is this man, 20-year-old Brisbaneite Ian Dipple, world speed champion. He's lining up for the Open men's race and is feeling anything but confident.
A fair bit of pressure, but the way I attack it now is just, if I look at it as in a fun aspect, I perform a lot better.
Among those out to get him is former world champion Mark Pickering from Townsville, who believes it could all come down to fitness.
You have to do running if you can, do gym work, try and ski as much as you can.
And it's not hard to see why physical conditioning is so important. The main race involves 15 laps of the 5-kilometre course, placing an enormous strain on muscles and joints.
It's only the top athletes that succeed, and you find these skiers, they'll have a training program, they'll have a diet program, and it's not all on water training. They're in the gym, they're cycling, they're running, they're building up the muscles that they need, because men go out and they ski at the speed for 1 hour. That's the event. It's 1 hour plus 1 lap, and that's a long way at high speeds.
10 minutes till race time and all competitors are on edge. With spots in the Australian team on the line, no one feels in the mood for talking.
Oh mate, after the race please.
Finally, a start. The first goal for competitors is to round the turning buoy in front. And already a surprise with bridge-to-bridge winner Jason Campbell, Sydney skier Paul Robertson and Firebird. But on the 8th lap the race changes. Robertson pulls away from the world champion and cuts Top Gun's lead from 20 to 13 seconds. The hectic pace is too much for the rest of the field. Former world champion Mark Pickering is languishing way back in 4th place. Only divine intervention will make him the 1991 title holder now. His prayers are partially answered a short time later. Top Gun, still holding an 8-second lead, falls victim to mechanical problems and is out of the race. The time is right for Robertson and Firebird to make their charge, leaving Dipple and Big Smoke trailing in the breeze. In the end, it's all too easy for Robertson, winning his first major title by 17 seconds.
I thought if we put it in hard the first couple of laps we might, but he just went at a cracking pace and it was pretty hard to catch him, and fortunately he stopped and we were there to clean up and carry on from there.
Second place getter Dipple has mixed feelings about his performance.
Well, I was a little bit disappointed, yeah. Mainly due to a lack of strength in the front hand and a little bit of, just a little bit of pain. Wasn't really happy with the overall expectations of the event, but I'm happy with second.
Now it's time for the competitors to take a rest from speed. Up next is the marathon, still the biggest test of a skier's all-round ability. Sunrise day 3, and it's not long before those camping at Awunga show signs of life. But not everyone's had an early night. Some have made the most of the festive atmosphere and are still partying.
Yeah, mine was okay. My head's a bit numb. I must have bumped on the ski yesterday or something.
With breakfast over, it's time to prepare for the day's racing, with a mixture of speed and endurance events on the program. First up is the marathon, an event unique to Australian skiing. Competitors have to change skis at the end of each lap in the 45-kilometre race, going from single ski to double finless, single finless, freeboard, and finally walking the plank.
It's a hell of a good training type thing for skiers because they don't have to go so fast, but they ski with great difficulty. There's nothing harder than trying to ski on a picket or a ski with no fittings on it even.
Minutes before the race start, it becomes obvious that competitors don't approach the marathon as seriously as they do the speed events.
You might have to take your shoes off, give us a hand.
Early favourite is speed champion Paul Robertson, who's now skiing behind Smuggler, but he's not likely to have things all his own way. And while some judges are still working hard to make the start as orderly as possible,
I will be counting Phoenix down, all right? He'll be counted down, okay? Then it'll be you.
others are finding it difficult to maintain their objectivity.
Think of your best performance, Paul. That's what, just sit there quietly, don't be distracted. Think of your best performance ever.
10 seconds push off. 3, 2, 1, go.
As you can see, the person with the fastest boat doesn't necessarily come out on top. The event is won and lost in the changeovers. Robertson's chances of a double victory disappear after the very first lap. In the end, it's an easy victory to the Blisters team, more than 4 minutes ahead of On The Move. After the women get their first taste of speed in the senior, under 16 and under 19 categories, it's marathon time again, this time the elite event. Here, Ian Dipple gets a chance to avenge his first up loss, and for a change, everything goes right. He coasts to the finish line nearly a minute in front.
And here he comes for a well-deserved win, Ian Dipple.
And this time it's a much happier Dipple returning to shore. His performance earns accolades from even the toughest of judges.
His natural ability isn't as good as others, but he works so hard at it and gives it his all. He's just superior to everybody because of his dedication. Others have got more natural ability, but don't work at it. So it's just about, you only get out of anything what you put into it.
Although the competition out on the water is intense, it's a little bit more laid back on shore. Being a national event, there's a lot of interstate rivalry. Put a Queensland announcer with a New South Welshman, it can only mean one thing, a hard time for all Victorians in the crowd.
Those Victorians don't even recognise the talents of a good skier.
No, that's right. They don't recognise their own government, so why would they recognise talents of a good skier?
But it's not as if they're being cruel. The Mexicans are more than capable of defending themselves.
Coming up to...
He's cheating, he's running another 2 cylinders.
Despite having won 5 Australian titles as a driver, Griffin says announcing at events like this gives him almost as much of a buzz as competing.
Not just commentating, accurate commentating on the race, but get feeling into it. And I like to promote the skiers and just what they've done, and maybe get a bit of state competition between people, talk back to them a bit, and I just like getting involved in it.
Back at the water, the nerves are jangling once again as competitors prepare for the Women's Open. In a few minutes, they'll leave the security of the shore to start the gruelling 60-kilometre race. And while some people are finding it hard to get excited, those competing are wide awake, knowing a good performance in front of the Australian selectors will strengthen their claims for a place in the national team. But there's no sign of nerves with race favourite Leanne Hickey. She's won the past 2 Australian titles and came second in the last World Championships in Italy. She doesn't let her supporters down, getting off to a good start, taking the early lead from Leanne Brown and Starfire. Right from the outset, it's obviously going to be a closer race than the men's event, and with 7 of the 12 laps gone, Hickey's lead is only 7 seconds. The battle for the minor placings is also on in earnest, with nothing separating Top Gun's Marnie Bricker and Honest's Kathy Monkman. Going into the last lap, Hickey still leads by 5 seconds, enough to give the Sydney sider her 3rd Australian title.
Well, the plan was to get in front and stay in front so that I wouldn't have to sort of do too much hard work in the middle. So the plan went off okay. I knew they were coming, but I had a little bit left, so I could have used it if I had to.
After the break, we'll turn up the heat as we bring you the fastest races of the week. This time it's the drivers who'll get the credit, and with no events to follow, they'll be searching for every available ounce of power. All the skiers have to do is hang on. The final day begins with the women's marathon. Kathy Monkman continues on from her great form in the speed race to take the title.
Good on you, mate.
But just as people are getting into the spirit of the day comes an announcement the world has been dreading for weeks.
F-15 fighter bombers are now dumping their weapons on strategic targets and finding little resistance from Iraqi anti-aircraft fire.
But events overseas are soon forgotten with the start of the class races, traditionally the fastest of the week. Finally, the drivers have a chance to steal some of the glory from the skiers, with boats separated into divisions according to their engine capacity. All week long, the drivers have been holding back on power to make sure the motors last for all races. In the final event, there's nothing to lose by giving it everything. Later in the day, you'll see Big Smoke in action in the Unlimited Outboard event. Driver John Dawson will have the 540 cubic inch Chev working overtime to keep up with his rivals. And despite having taken Ian Dipple to a second placing in the Open event, He's surprisingly pessimistic about his chances here.
It'll be the fastest boat. And I'm afraid this weekend I haven't really got it.
Meanwhile, out on the water, the action's hotting up with some good racing in the lower horsepower classes. It's not surprising the spectators get so worked up when the standard of competition is so high. Next up are the Class 4 races, with a quality field lining up for the under 8 litre inboard. For the skiers to stay competitive, they can't afford to play chicken, and most are motivated to perform well. Although a number of boats have pulled out, it looks like being a fast race, and after a moderate start, they're really cooking. The only people cooling their heels are the spectators enduring heatwave conditions, although not all can contain their excitement. Out in front of the field, it's Jamie Oliver and all hostile well clear. Even the chopper line helicopter is having trouble keeping up. In second place, Status and Jeff Graham are failing to make any ground. That's the way it'll stay in a race marred by mechanical problems. However, there are no worries in the unlimited outboard event for former world champion Mark Pickering and the Reverend. They win by more than a lap. Finally, we come to the last race of the program, the unlimited inboard. John Dawson is hoping last-minute modifications to Big Smoke will help him bring Ian Dipple home, but once again he's up against stiff competition. Dipple's rivalry against Open winner Paul Robertson continues, with the Sydney sider lining up behind Mirage. And Dipple's bid to turn the tables gets off to a good start, with Big Smoke going immediately to the front. But Robertson isn't far behind. Championship organiser Snowy Ross is also doing well in his boat Dart, holding out third place. But it's Dipple all the way, taking his tally for the week to 2 firsts and a second. So as the curtain closes on the Caltex Australian titles, the top skiers' thoughts are now turning towards the Worlds. For the rest, it's back to clubs scattered throughout Australia until next year.